Hello, everyone. Let me adjust my camera a bit. Here we go. Okay, this is Empowering Democracy. It's Thursday, November 10th, 2022. I'm your host, Joe Firestone. And my topic for tonight, appropriate, I think, is still more on election results. In case you haven't had enough, remember it's not over until it's over. It's not over till the fat lady sings. Poor fat lady, right? So here we are, and I have more election results. Hello, Steve Wolfbrand. Hi, Kay. How are you? Please do share. I think I'll do a bit of sharing myself. I think that was me. Okay, I am back. Steve says California taking forever to count the votes. Arizona and Nevada are taking forever to count the votes also. Okay. And is Oregon done? Is Washington done? I don't know. Steve says it's almost Christmas time. Steve, that's definitely premature. It's not even Thanksgiving. We still have to have the big Thanksgiving celebration. We don't usually celebrate with the traditional turkey. We use lamb shanks. So, a few more results. We don't have pages and pages and pages of election results tonight, but we do have a small number of significant changes as we go forward. So the live blog at 538.com has been continuing on, and the latest posts from the live blog are as of 7:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. And the first message says, let me get the summary message. There have been a few individual races with projected winners over the course of Thursday, but neither party has enough seats in either the House or the Senate to definitively stake a claim. We're not going to know the Senate for a few more days, as both Arizona and also Nevada are still counting ballots. The House has seen 14 seats flip so far, with a net gain of 11 seats for Republicans. However, with around 30 races still unprojected, we need some more results in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, okay, and more. So it said here there are 11, a net gain of 11 seats, okay, for the Republicans. Okay, the Republicans were 5 seats short, okay, of getting there. So if you add those 5 seats, and then you figure there are another 6 seats, okay, for the Republicans. So it looks to me like the current projection is that the Republicans will have at least 224 seats. And the Democrats will at most have 211 seats in the House. But there are still 30 races unprojected. So, as this piece from 538 says, we need some more results in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, okay, and more. So that's the summary statement, a complimentary statement by Nathaniel Rakich at 5:38 at November 10th, 7:09 p.m. Another day, another lack of a projection in either the Senate or the House. Honestly, at this point, it's looking like it might take until the weekend. Things are pretty much where they were yesterday. Dems seem likely to eventually win Arizona and Nevada, giving them control of the Senate, regardless of what happens in the Georgia runoff. And Republicans have a much clearer path to 218 House seats than Democrats do. Here's a closer look at the races that are still up in the air. Senate. And Republicans are virtually guaranteed to have at least 49 seats in the next Senate, and Democrats have clinched 48. That means Democrats need to win 2 of Arizona, Georgia, and also Nevada to keep control. In Arizona, Kelly leads Blake Masters 51%. That's Mark Kelly, of course, to 46%. That's a margin of 98,141 votes. There are over 600,000 ballots left to count statewide, but it will be difficult for Masters to overcome that deficit. If we move to Nevada, Laxalt leads Catherine Cortez Masto 49% to 48%. That's a margin up there of 15,867 votes. However, there are roughly 100,000 votes left to count, and they're mostly bail-in. Cortez Masto will probably take the lead once they're counted. So that's the opinion of 538. At this point, they think the Senate will go to the Democrats. At least they'll get the 50 senators without even considering that the runoff in Georgia may be redundant as far as control of the Senate is concerned. Of course, it would be nice to have the one extra vote, because then you might be able to try to divide Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin on certain votes. I don't know what chance there is of doing that, but maybe there is a little bit. In the House, ABC News currently estimates that Republicans will win at least 211 House seats. Democrats will win at least 201. If you give each unprojected district to the party that is currently leading in that race, you end up with 222 Republican seats and 213 Democratic seats. That probably won't happen. We're expecting at least a few lead changes, but it gives you a sense of what the final margin might be. In a word, it will be narrow. In the governor races in Arizona, Katie Hobbs leads Kari Lake 50.4% to 49.6%. Just 15,024 votes separate the two, and that isn't a safe lead at all, with 600,000 ballots still left to count. In Nevada, Lombardo, I think his name is Joe Lombardo, leads Steve Sisolak, 50% to 46%, or 34,207 votes. Sisolak will need those remaining mail ballots to be very blue in order to pull out a win here. In Oregon, I believe her name is Tanya Kotek, leads Drazen 47% to 44%, with 84% of the expected vote reporting. Drazen would need the outstanding ballots to be pretty red in order to close that gap. So the expectation here is that Katie Hobbs is going to win in Arizona. That Lombardo is going to win. And that Kotek is going to win in Oregon. The situation in Alaska is that Dunleavy, who's a Republican, I believe, has 52%. Guerra has 23%. Walker has 20%. And Pierce has 5%. It sure looks like Dunleavy has won re-election, but it's unclear whether we'll need ranked choice voting tabulations to tell us that. Here's a little news on Lauren Boebert as of 7:01 p.m. tonight. In Pueblo County, Colorado, they just reported about 2,000 votes in the tight race for Colorado's 3rd district. It was a big help to Republican Lauren Boebert. She extended her lead from 652 votes to 1,229 votes. And she now leads Democrat Adam Frisch 50.2% to 49.8% district-wide. This isn't over yet, but you'd rather be Boebert than Frisch at this point. So let's see if I want to say more about this. I think I've said enough. So here's Ryan Best as of 12:58 p.m., in other words, early this afternoon. He said, and 14 House seats have flipped in the midterm so far, with a net gain of plus 8 seats over to the Republicans. Over the plus 5 threshold, they need to take control of the chamber. So since then, there were another 3 seats net gained, okay, for Republicans. We read that in the first little piece, okay, I read. So If they were 3 votes over the threshold, then that would have been 221. But since the net gain later on in the afternoon involved another 3 seats, in other words, there was a net gain of 11, then we see that there are, 224 seats for the Republicans is the expectation. Anyway, this goes on to say, redistricting, re-gerrymandering is a large part of the reason why Republicans flipped 3 seats in gerrymandered Florida and Tennessee. Republicans also performed well in New York's congressional races, flipping 3 seats there, where a previously enacted gerrymander by the Democrats was struck down in court. Had this map stayed in place, New York Democrats might have squeaked out more seats in the state, despite the GOP's overperformance. Of course, redistricting isn't the sole reason why more House districts have flipped from Democrats to Republicans and the other way around, but it's certainly one of the main ones. Here is a useful graphic as of 12:56 p.m. Eastern today from ABC News. You can see that in the Arizona 2nd, the Florida 13th, the Florida 7th, the Iowa 3rd, they were all flips to the Republicans in those particular districts. Then Democrats flipped a seat in the Michigan 3rd. That flip was by Hillary Scholten. But then there's a Republican flip. Thomas Kean Jr., the son of the former governor of New Jersey, flipped the seat that was held by the Democrats in the New Jersey 7th. Then Dems flipped a seat, in the New Mexico 2nd, where Gabriel Vasquez won from the incumbent who was a Republican. But then, in the New York 17th, the New York 3rd, and the New York 4th, there were 3 seats that flipped over to the Republicans. Then there was an Ohio seat that flipped from Republican to Democrat. And then 3 more Republican flips in the Tennessee 5th, in the Virginia 2nd. That was Elaine Luria's district. No, I think it's Ellen Luria, sorry. And in the Wisconsin 3rd, Derek Van Orden. So what is that? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's where the net gain of 11 came from, because there were 3 Democratic flips offsetting the Republican flips of 14. So the remainder is a net gain of 11 that at that point had gone to the Republicans. So those were the changes. Now let's look a little more at control and who will control the House. I guess I can dispense with this. The map I thought would be here in this one is not here. So let me share something else with you. This is a graphic that was produced, okay, by Ezra Wilson. By the way, Ezra will be back with us tomorrow night. He was doing some research tonight, so he couldn't come back. But here again, as I did last night, I'm going to share his map. So his prediction as of yesterday was the Republicans would win by 220 to 215. Okay, we see the Republicans in called races have now exceeded that. They seem to be up over 220. How much more they'll get than the 220, we cannot say, okay, at this point. But from the original microblog that we read here, there are 30 races still unprojected. We need some more results in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, and more. Probably Alaska. We probably need some more results in Alaska too. So you're waiting. The Republicans are not expected to do that well in the other 30 races, okay, that are unprojected. Some of the pundits have been talking about the Democrats actually running the table of unprojected races so that the final result will be the net gain of 11 seats for the Republicans. 224, that would be, versus 211, okay, for Democrats. So we're probably looking at that. So that's for the House. For the Senate, okay, Democrats are still favored. Now, I wanted to switch from the numbers to begin to talk about the politics. The politics will be kind of odd if the Republicans are restricted to just a few more wins. If they have a margin of, let's say, only 6 to 10 seats, then there is likely to be a lot of fighting on the Republican side. Okay, a lot of infighting. The Republicans have a diverse coalition. Kevin McCarthy would be a new leader, not necessarily very popular with the Trumpists. The politics on the Republican side right now is dynamic because DeSantis is challenging Trump. Trump is receiving all manner of criticism for the Republican defeat, since the expectation was they would be romping in the South, and there was also much expectation that they would take over the Senate too. That doesn't look like it's going to happen, and a lot of people are coming forward on the Republican side and saying that Trump has held them back. The issue of their leader being Trump has held them back, and they have to put Trump behind them. A lot of Republicans are now saying that. They're pointing to race after race where the narrative put forward by Trump to stop the steal narrative has cost the Republicans seats, many, many seats. The majority of people who ran for office who supported the stop the steal narrative actually lost. There were some victories for very visible people, for the people who supported Stop the Steal. But still, the majority of people who supported it simply lost. And there were big victories from certain people who were very, very visible in the fight against Stop the Steal. For example, Raffensperger in Georgia handily won his election rather than being punished for opposing Trump and being loyal to the system. He was rewarded for opposing Trump. Also, Brian Kemp had disagreements over Stop the Steal with Trump, and he easily won his reelection against Stacey Abrams. And he no longer seems to be in bed with Trump at all. So some in the Republican Party, and not just old-style Republicans like Liz Cheney, have indicated strongly they want to move away from Trump. On the other hand, Ron DeSantis was very successful in this election. And to some degree, he ran against Trump in his election in Florida. So he's an example of somebody who's on the right, very much on the right, and the very nasty right too, who at the same time was free to oppose Trump and to get away with it and to win big. So you put that into the congressional context. Somebody like Matt Gaetz, let's say, will, of course, want to be very loyal to Trump at this point, and not necessarily supportive of DeSantis' challenge. Other people in Congress are going to line up for DeSantis or for Trump. Still others are going to line up for an independent House point of view. And they will probably line up behind Kevin McCarthy. These disagreements could spill over into strife within the party itself, in the Congress. I expect that to happen. That's going to happen. People will challenge the leadership of Kevin McCarthy before too long. On some or another issue, they will challenge his leadership. How do you do that? One way you do that is by running a vacate the chair motion on the incumbent speaker, on the speaker in office at this point. I expect Kevin McCarthy is going to be elected Speaker at first. But I also expect that with the give and take in politics, probably by the middle of next year, the Republican Party people will be at each other's throats. There will be a vacate the chair motion that we will see perhaps at the end of the first 6 months, because from the point of view of those doing the vacate the chair motion, they will argue that Kevin McCarthy is not aggressive enough in going after the Democrats. There may be some people who are in DeSantis's corner who do that, and a group of people also who will be in Trump's corner. Both groups will be challenging the authority of Kevin McCarthy and trying to put in one of their own. And Kevin McCarthy will be a very unhappy man. Why do I think this will happen? Because it happened to John Boehner. And one reason why Paul Ryan retired when he did was because after a number of months as the successor to John Boehner, there was talk circulating to do vacate the chair motions against him. He didn't want to be ruling over this kind of rough and tumble in the Congress. And so Paul Ryan, following the loss of the Congress or the House to Nancy Pelosi, Paul Ryan did is he just retired. He didn't want to have any part of that internal party fighting. So Kevin McCarthy is going to try to take over, but he's going to have a very rough time trying to unify the Republican caucus. Does that mean they will vote? Some of them will vote with the Democrats on certain issues? I don't know, but I suspect that you will have some of them who will, on certain issues, want to cooperate with the Democrats. For example, one issue may be voting rights issues. It seems to me the Alaskans are very sensitive about trying to disenfranchise the economic groups that live in Alaska. They're not for that. They don't want to have any part of it. They've just gotten through electing an indigenous person to Congress. This is Mary Peltola, and I'm assuming she is going to win the Alaskan election, even though I don't think that information is in yet. She's extremely popular. She fundraised more than anybody else in the race. Beat Sarah Palin in fundraising by 10 times. She's going to win. And she's not going to stand for laws that will make it harder for indigenous Alaskans to vote. You're not going to line up with Trump on that. So there will be divisions within this Republican Party in the House. Some of these Republicans will, of course, want to join Kevin McCarthy in creating a debt ceiling crisis. But on the other hand, they won't want to settle the debt ceiling crisis when Kevin McCarthy and the Democrats are ready to settle it. They're most probably going to oppose the settlement and will want the debt ceiling crisis to go on. I can't imagine how long these people are going to want to hold out. But I think the mainstream of the Republican Party in the House will be very impatient if a small minority wants to hold out on making a reasonable compromise with Democrats. So we're not going to have a unified Republican caucus for very long in the House. These people will be fighting like cats and dogs. That means it will be hard for the Republican Party to formulate and maintain a winning strategy. They're going to look like disorganized kids. And the people who voted for them in 2022 are not going to do the same in 2024. And what about the Democrats? Well, I think there's going to be a battle royale this time over who the Speaker of the House is going to be. I don't think they're going to allow Nancy Pelosi to take it again. There's just an article this very evening. I saw it somewhere on my Twitter page, calling for more leadership roles for the progressive squad and raising the question of who should be the next Speaker of the House. So everybody is thinking about it now. And what does Nancy Pelosi have to buy off the people this time? When she was Speaker, she could threaten them with not getting any good positions on the committees, and also promised them, some of them who were playing ball with her, that they would get good positions on the committees. But now, what does she have? Now the Republicans will be controlling the committees. She's going to want to allocate any small favors she still can allocate to her mainstays for a long time. People she's worked with for a long time. There aren't going to be enough favors to go around now. If she doesn't bring aboard the progressives, they're not going to vote for her for minority leader. She's not going to be as powerful. I don't think she'll be powerful at all in punishing people. Lots of her work in Congress was done by pulling together people using the threat of their not getting good committee spots. She'll be losing the power to do that now if she is still to be party leader, if she is still to be the speaker in waiting, so called. So, with the Republicans taking over control of the House, it will be the case that Nancy Pelosi will still have a lot of power, but not the power she had before. And the power she will have in a new Congress can much more easily be removed from her by a reawakened progressive group. In fact, I'm not even sure that Nancy Pelosi is going to survive a race for party leader. And I don't know if she's going to be nominated for Speaker again by the Democrats. It's very interesting. Tweets have already appeared starting to undercut her. Okay, as the new and continuing leader of the Democrats, there are going to be a lot of those tweets over the next weeks. At this point, we really don't know uh, respected in the fight over the succession. There'll be a lot of issues coming up. For example, I pointed out, okay, that the Democrats lost 3 seats in New York they probably should have gotten. This, in part, is due to chaos in the party as to who would be the leader. The nominal leader is Kathy Hochul. She, of course, is now the governor of New York and just won a term on her own. But that doesn't mean she's a powerful figure at the head of the party. She has to build her power. Right now, I don't think she has the power to command people. So I think the Republicans can go on their merry way. They certainly will vote for someone to be a party leader. And that someone is likely to be someone who is much the Democratic Party. So I see conflicts breaking out both on the Democratic side and on the Republican side. And maybe get more legislation through than he would have been able to do if the Republicans were a unified front against him. Now, the Republicans in the Senate are easier to unify because there are only 50 of them. And I don't think there are as many factions among them as there are among the Democrat speakers. So, We expect conflict. We expect confusion. We expect that neither party is easily going to be able to afford to support for office. I don't know how many of them will be able to hold events for them. How many of them will be able uh, I'm not sure exactly what I said. I got it kind of garbled. But I am trying to point out that in the Republican House, it is not going to be Pleasantville. Sandy asks, who would be the speaker, do you think, Joe? Well, I still think it's going to be Kevin McCarthy, but some people might want to steal. I think there's a good chance that Steve Scalise is going to make his own move for leadership, spearheaded by some of the people who are much further to the right than Kevin McCarthy's people. Then I think the real militants in the Freedom Caucus are going to be very influential. But I would have to say, my personal opinion is that Kevin McCarthy is going to hold on, and then he's going to have a chance to be Speaker. Then he'll be Speaker for a few months, and then somebody is going to introduce a vacate the chair motion to ask him to leave. And at first, he probably won't. But if these efforts are kept up over a period of time, he will conclude he can't control the party caucus, and then he will retire, and then someone else will try. If that someone is Steve Scalise, I don't think he's going to succeed either. I don't think that the Republicans in the House will be able to come together around a single candidate so that you'll have something similar to what you're having in the Conservative Party in the UK, specifically a succession of leaders. They'll probably go through 3 or 4 rounds of this before they settle on somebody more permanent. That somebody will probably be a caretaker leader and won't be capable of unifying the Republicans against things that a unified party of Democrats want to see. Kay says, I've heard Jim Jordan wants the speaker job. God forbid. Yeah, Jim Jordan probably does want the speaker job, but there are all sorts of people who want the speaker job. They're not all going to get it. It was easy for the Republicans, it is easy now for them to complain about the Democrats and to unite against the Democrats on all kinds of spurious issues that really don't exist. But it's going to be a lot harder for them to organize around one of their own and to stay agreed that he should be the one to be the speaker. I don't expect there to be much success in unifying the Republican Party over these next 2 years. And I think the Democrats will gain from that because because the Republican Party will look like a bunch of Katzenjammer kids. Steve says, Doc, how much has Trump's influence been damaged? Well, he's got Fox leaving him and supporting Ron DeSantis. Quite a lot of his power in the first run, and even during the first 2 years of the Biden administration, was due to the fact that Fox was still supporting him. Now, with Fox going somewhere else, he's not going to be able to get all those little tricks to make himself so visible anymore. I think his influence has been greatly damaged by this campaign and by the loss of many of his people because they tried to continue selling his Stop the Steal narrative. Sandy Degg asks, who would be the best choice for Speaker if the Democrats, by some miracle, were to retain the House at this late point? I think the best compromise choice among them for Speaker would be Debbie Dingell. And I would expect her to emerge. I think she can unite the various parts of the Democratic Party. So I think that's all I have to say for tonight. Okay, I wish you well over the next day. I will be back tomorrow on my regular schedule, which is 2 early shows and a show, at 9 p.m. I wasn't able to be here for the 2 early shows tonight because Bonnie had a jewelry show, and I sort of have a command performance there as the guy who does the lifting and the guy who does the calculating. So we were busy until roughly 4 in the afternoon, and then I had a number of other things to take care of, so I wasn't able to stream with the 2 earliest streams. But I will be back tomorrow with the 2 earliest streams, and I expect that Ezra will be joining me at 9 p.m. for his latest takes on the election results and his ideas about what the future holds. And I think we'll have a very interesting conversation about that. And Kay Ryan says, Night, Joe, and everybody. Love you all. And we love you, Kay. Steve Wolfbrandt says, good night, all. And Sandy Degg says, nice. Bonnie makes beautiful jewelry. Indeed, she does. And thank you, Sandy. Okay, good night, everybody. Oh, I have to keep saying, please occasionally visit my Patreon account, patreon.com/Joe_Firestone, and or my Buy Me a Coffee account. Those Buy Me a Coffees add up, and I need them to add up. So thank you very much for coming. And if you can afford to do that, please visit those 2 accounts every once in a while so I can keep the lights on. So good night, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.